Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Schaefer, John Conley, thanks for joining us on our Flagstaff live shelter services chat. And I want to thank you for inviting me to do this. Flagstaff Shelter Services is incredibly important to me, and it's incredibly important to our community. So I appreciate the invite to kind of be a part of this. Thank you.
You know, I am so grateful that you said yes, because to be honest with you, I think you were like, why are you calling me to do this? But I can say that John has been, so many people know you in this community as a community-minded, caring human being that cares about other people. You're a longtime supporter. Your family are longtime supporters of our organization and the restaurants. I mean, you've brought the pizza oven out and done lots of different stuff for us. So it felt natural when we wanted to have a conversation about what's happening at the shelter to bring your personality into this so that we could really get the message out. So
thank you.
Sure. And we wanted tacos.
Oh, we wanted tacos, and you got them.
We did. We got some. I'm going to have more.
So let's jump into this.
Okay.
I'm John Conley, Shaefer, Executive Director. And we were joking earlier. Why? Why are you here? Why did you choose this line of work? You were telling me a story about your mom and how you were raised in this beautiful scenario. And I've watched you up close and from afar do amazing things. What drives you?
Well, that's really nice of you to say. Growing up, my mother was the executive director of a nonprofit in Richmond, Virginia. And she did that for really 13, 17 years of kind of the formative time in my life. As a child, as a teenager, that was something that I watched her run an organization that provided housing and food for people experiencing homelessness. And it really has been something that I look back on as really what I couldn't have told you at the time, how informative that was for me. And
was that your inspiration? Like did you know that because mom modeled this for you, that I'm inspired to carry this message?
Yeah. I mean, her story is, of course, not my story. She was born into homelessness and I had this experience that formed her childhood and kind of career after we were all grown up. And so I think watching that and watching her do this work, she would take us in the van and down to hand out lunches. And while the adults were doing the volunteer work, we would play with the other kids that were there. And when the program was over, we'd hop in the car to head home. And I never fully understood why I got to go home and the kids that I was playing with just then didn't have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So I do think it's part of my story now.
It's a genuine foundation. You've come from a genuine place of being of service. And I'm telling you, you've changed the fabric of Flagstaff. Can you share with us, like Flagstaff Shelter Services? I've watched it morph over the years, and I've never seen it gain such traction as it is now. I mean, you're in the forefront, you're out, you're driving the message. Tell us about Flagstaff Shelter Services. Give us some quick stats, give us the bullets.
Absolutely. I am so deeply passionate about this organization, mostly because I think that it is difficult to work for a nonprofit when you don't truly believe in the mission of the work. And even you might believe in it, but you have to really explain its relevancy. You do not have to do that at Flagstaff Shelter Services. People know why it exists, that emergency shelter is necessary for a healthy community. And, to be honest with you, the organization, you're right, has grown so substantially in, the last 10 years. I mean, when I started, the organization was seasonal, and in the first board meeting that I sat in with a really committed group of people in this community, we basically said, "Hey, are we doing this or are we not doing this?" And the board thankfully took a chance on me, and we haven't looked back. We have been open ever since that board meeting.
And I got to tell you, so I've been here for 40 years. I've seen the growth. I'd like to kind of move into like what you've done recently, because I've seen the place in Industrial, over in Industrial. You just got a hotel.
Yeah.
You may be growing that as well, and yet the needs will never be met. I mean, clearly the needs of Flagstaff Shelter Services are never going to be met, even though you're pushing the envelope and you're gaining properties, and you're providing housing. And these are our neighbors. These are people that my kids went to school with, people that I've known that are staying in these places. This isn't a transient population, although you take care of them too.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to talk about that. Like, what are the needs and the ongoing needs? And quite frankly, how Flagstaff Shelter Services is always short of money.
Yeah, I mean, I think the organization you're absolutely right. It's changed so dramatically. And I think COVID really brought this kind of different perspective on how we talk about housing and emergency shelter. You know, December of 2019, we finished putting a second story on the building, which enabled us to serve twice as many people, right? Well, we all know it happened December 2019, right? Yeah. Or 2 months later, we moved back in and we had to move right back out. COVID.
And I was there one of those mornings at like 6 a.m. We're doing breakfast burritos.
Yep.
And it's bunk beds. Yep. And it's packed and it's stacked and there's people outside and it's COVID and we got masks on and you were bursting at the seams.
Yep.
And so now you've got an additional property.
Yep.
COVID was incredibly hard for all of us. Specifically, let's talk about that a little bit. What were the greatest challenges from COVID?
Well, you know, the least popular thing to be doing during COVID was congregating, and certainly running a congregate shelter was up there. So, you know, one of the things that we did because of help with your breakfast burritos is we were able to do surveillance testing on everyone in the shelter. And because of that, we were able to move that day that we got those results back, we saw 40% of our population was COVID positive, and that included our staff.
Wow.
So we acted very quickly in partnership with the board of directors, and city council really stepped in and helped us find partnerships with hotels. And we moved into 3 separate hotels across the county, two of which were for prevention and one was for COVID positive folks. And we did that for a year. And it was this beautiful lesson in how housing is healthcare, because we saw how wonderful people did when they had their own space and their own shower, and they didn't have to sleep in a bunk bed next to somebody. And like, we saw crime rates go down and physical health outcomes go up, right? Housing is healthcare. And so when we started having to move people back, and the Department of Housing came to us and said, hey, would you want to apply for this funding to purchase a hotel? We already knew how to do it. Yeah. Like, we'd been running 3 for a year. And so we did. We bought, at the time it was the Howard Johnson on Route 66. And it's now called the Crown, which is what the original building was called.
Can you see the passion? There's a ton of passion here. I got to interrupt you here, and I'm doing it purposely because it's not one and done. I mean, you bought a hotel and that's not enough. And I've been following this. We as a community have been following this. You have grant, you got this grant. It's not enough money to do the changes. You know, you're retrofitting those hotel rooms with kitchens, and it's going to be more of a family environment, which costs money, which demands more financial input, which leads me to the next thing that everybody knows about is you just received a grant from Amazon. Yeah.
It's wild.
And how cool is that?
Yeah.
And yet it's still not enough.
Right.
I mean, the reality is it's still a drop in the bucket.
Yep. It's an award, which is really exciting. We didn't apply for it, right? Like, national experts in the field came to us and said, what would you do with $2.5 million? And, you know, of course, I'm like, what wouldn't I do? We would do this. And we were able to go back to the Department of Housing, who at that point in time were saying, you did this one, you did it so well. Would you do it again? And, you know, the board was like, we can't do that. We need, how are you going to pay for that?
Yeah.
And so that $2.5 million is going to help us operate yet another hotel purchase that we're working on right now. And so, it's a 5-year grant. And we, you know, when you break that out, $500,000 in operating cost of a new property, it's not going to change. It's wonderful. I don't want to suggest that we're.
Thank you, Amazon.
Thank you, Jeff. You're the best. I mean,
It's great to feel the impacts at our small community level from such a giant.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And,
Yeah.
and yet you, the way you describe it and how it's given over 5 years at 500,000, that is not in
Right.
terms of operating hotel with insurance,
Yep.
utilities, all the things that go to maintenance. It's not a drop in the bucket.
Right.
And I have to say that in terms of our population, it's the greatest dent that you've ever put in Flagstaff Shelter Services has ever put into our homeless
Yeah.
population. And yet
Yeah.
it's still not enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 620 people on the list this week,
God.
and awaiting housing services. And this entire community,
620.
yeah, this entire community knows how difficult housing is for, you know, teachers and social workers. How could it be easier for someone who isn't making ends meet, has eviction or a record or
Yeah.
bankruptcy? You know, it's substantial, and the families that we see each day, the children that are impacted by this.
Yeah.
So to be able to have these hotels and the shelter, we're talking about there being a 160 plus 200, you know, almost 375 places for people to go because of this organization, which is
So
remarkable.
there was 325, 325,
375.
375 places for these people to go. And there were 620 people this week that needed help. I want to take a quick break here and just
Okay.
invite anybody, if you've got questions from myself or Ross, how you can help, your experience with Flagstaff Shelter Services, put them in and we'll try to answer those. Do you have anything for us yet? All right, what do we got? Here's a good one, Anthony. I love Anthony.
There's nothing ordinary
I know.
about you, Anthony.
Yeah, how can
You're
ordinary
not fooling us.
how can ordinary everyday folks like myself volunteer with Flagstaff Shelter Services? And yeah, there's nothing ordinary about you, Anthony.
Absolutely not.
So how can people help?
That's a great question. So there's lots of ways to get involved. One of the things I love about this organization is we get very creative with how people can connect and give their gifts. And so you can reach out to hello@flagshelter.org. And if you have an idea, we can talk about that. If you want to serve a meal, if you want to clean up property, if you want to paint the walls, you know, there's so many ways to get involved and so many things you can do. We have plenty of opportunities for families to volunteer, children, that kind of thing. That's really important as a mom to me, that we offer a way for kids to connect. So that doesn't look like in-person stuff. It looks different, but it is an organization that wants to accommodate our entire community.
You know, you hit a hot button there. I think as parents, we have to model that. And for me, it's huge to be of service, quite frankly. I mean, we have so many people that can't go beyond their four walls. And I've really tried to instill that in my staff and my management, but mostly my family. And it starts with us as parents. How do we help lead, guide, and direct this community? How do we be of service? And in this case, you know, I'm very passionate about young adults or kids with developmental disabilities. They're some of our most vulnerable. And this population base is also some of our most vulnerable. So there's lots of ways to volunteer. Grab a paintbrush, write a check, grab a paintbrush, write a check.
Well, those all work, but I will just say, I mean, it's very clear. I mean, you're volunteering your time right now to do this with us. So it's very clear to your community that you are instilling that, and not just your family, but all of us.
Thank you. I feel very honored. So let's talk dinero, like your budget.
Yeah.
So I don't know any of this, so I'm going to ask, like, you had a budget that fluctuates. As a business owner, it's kind of hard to run a business when you have a fluctuating budget.
Yep.
And then you get a hotel, and your fixed cost, your variable costs, they all go up. What is your budget like right now?
That's a great question. So when I started in 2014, our organization had a $300,000 budget.
For the year?
For the year.
Annual, $300K, that includes employees, insurance, transportation, gas.
And this year it'll be close to $5 million.
$5 million, from 300,000 to 5 million. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is that, and if you look at our organization from a budget perspective, those expenses that make up that number are truly it's a skeleton budget. I mean, we're working with pennies on the dollar to deliver this service, and certainly make sure that we're paying a fair wage to our employees, and that they feel connected to the work in that way. But making sure that we can, in our shelter, it's about $6 a night per person.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, it's bare
That's bare
bones.
bones.
And so with the new hotel purchase, we'll come close to, having 80 employees. And that alone, as you know, we're a huge employer in town as well. So it's there's a lot of specific needs we have. We're lucky to have a very generous community. COVID has certainly, we saw fluctuations in what donations and giving looked like. And we have a lot of different money that comes into the pot to make these things happen. But it's a scary time to be building your program. And if we don't fund it in the right way, or continue to fund what has worked to get us to a place where we're being recognized by leaders in the work, then it becomes a risk for our community to not be able to sustain and stabilize things. So,
and having done, been on a number of capital campaign committees, whether it be Pine Forest School, a number of another what's that?
I said I'm going to get him on mine.
Yeah. The bulk of that, and comes in small denominations. It comes from our community. I mean, we all want that angel to kind of parachute in, and that happens periodically. But these, the nuts and bolts of this is small community donations that are set up consistently. Mm-hmm. It's not look, I'm going to write a check around $100 over Christmas. It's I'm going to give $100 every month.
Well, I think I told you this story when we first were talking. When I started here, I met a man. I won't say his name, but he lives local to the town, and he's on fixed income. He's on the fixed income, and he gives us $5 every month out of that check he receives. And to me, making sure he feels valued and that he wants to continue giving and supporting our organization, frankly, is far more important than somebody writing us a $2.5 million check. I mean, I'm serious. That's not bullshit. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to curse, but
language.
I know. But I mean, honestly, it's really, I think
it's meaningful.
And it's how we continue to count on that each month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we can predict.
Yeah. That's important. I mean, it's great to write a check. I encourage everybody to continue to give, but if you can make it consistent, it's an auto draw every 30 days, $10. I mean,
it's the most consistent. We have what's called the home team, and you can sign up and have it come out monthly, and then that's income that our organization counts on in a way that
it stays here.
It stays local. And with the charitable tax credit structure the way it is in our community, it just makes good sense to support locally, because then it keeps your dollars here and supporting programs that you care about. I think we might have another question, but it's not coming up. Oh, there it is.
Jackie.
Oh, Jackie.
So can you talk a little bit about the tax credit and how that works with organizations like Flagstaff? What a great segue.
I mean, come on, that wasn't planned, I swear.
Should we tell our Jake
that's
Bacon?
Right, yeah,
Sure.
Sure.
You can't tell that.
Don't tell
we
that
cannot
one.
tell the Jake
Don't
Bacon
tell the
story.
Jake Bacon story.
All right, so tax credits, how does that work?
Yeah, so the charitable tax credit in our community, a single who is giving can give up to, or filing single can give up to $400 to the organization. A family filing joint can give up to $800, and that comes directly to us, and then we give them a letter and with a code on it that goes directly to your state taxes as either a credit or it's not a deduction, but it's it lowers your liability to the state. So it really is. I mean, if every person in Flagstaff gave this way, we're talking millions and millions of dollars that would stay locally. And it's really like writing a check that you're going to get that money back, and it's going to go straight to our to really our general operations. So things like keeping the lights on and paying the insurance, things that, the average funder isn't really interested in paying for.
So what is your ongoing plan in terms of budget and budgeting and maintaining? I know as somebody, who's again been here a long time, when you make donations to a nonprofit specifically, you want to make sure that there is a track for success.
Yeah. And
so how do you ensure that you can keep the lights on when you make these great expansions and you just bought a hotel and you're going to do all these great things? That's a considerable amount of money. And what's what is your safety net there?
Well, we are the safety net.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the reality. And so, I can tell you that
There is no safety net.
they're not coming for us.
Yeah.
We have to save ourselves. No, I think that what's really important, and I want to be honest and transparent about this, is that it hasn't been that long since this organization felt the real fear and heat of not knowing how we were going to make the ends meet at the end of the month. And I think that is when the weight of knowing how many people need your services and are counting on a warm place to sleep tonight, to know that there were years where I was holding my paycheck and, and so I don't say all of that to scare our donors to think, but what I want to say is that we are here today because they carried us through that time, and we were able to build the outcomes we have today of shelter and housing and really keeping people alive because of those folks. And so, one, I think that outcomes, success of getting people housed is the story we have to keep, the drum we have to keep banging, because that's why people want to keep supporting our organization. But I think it's also having long-term strategic planning.
Yeah.
We have a really smart board of directors and really trying to bring in folks with lived expertise and folks from a diverse background, and just really trying to have a full conversation with people that can help us kind of not look at tomorrow, not look at next month, but look at 5 years, 10 years down the road, and how our organization evolves in that process.
And
it's chaos, John. It's pure chaos.
But it's reassuring. I mean, it's a compassionate donation.
Yeah.
And it's meaningful, and it changes people's lives. I mean, it really impacts, that family that's sleeping in their car with 3 kids is happening right now as we speak down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
And these are our neighbors, and these are my son's high school friends.
Yeah.
And so it's a meaningful place to put your money. It's a meaningful place to commit consistently. How has the city been to work with on all this?
We have awesome partners at the city. I mean, I think that generally when they have access coming, or have resources coming in, and we can, put applications in for that resource,
Sure.
I think we generally have a lot of support from a lot of the departments, usually from the city council, and, different folks. So, I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing is. I would love to see us be included in their annual budget. And I think that's something that it sounds like the city council coming in is really committed to seeing happen.
But it's important to note that this is independent of any city funding.
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
So at this point, you get nothing from the city, and you derive your funding from the Jeff Bezos of the world. Thank you. And
thanks, Jeff Bezos. I'm sure you're watching.
Thank you, Jeff Bezos. And
thanks, Jeff Bezos.
It's meaningful. And then the community at large.
Yeah.
So to be able to form that partnership, and then you think about, you kind of peel that onion back, but I mean, in terms of crime, in terms of transiency, I mean, how that affects the city and the quality of life in Flagstaff, and what Flagstaff Shelter Services does.
Yep. I mean, the truth is that housing is the answer.
Yeah.
Period. People don't use the bathroom on the street when they have a bathroom to use at their own home.
Yeah. Except Jake Bacon.
Gotcha. So I think that it's really important to note that housing is truly something that transforms people's lives. And it is the heartbeat of our organization. We shelter people. Yes, it is a huge component of our work, but our housing work is really where my pulse quickens. It's where the real work is happening, where we really see people's lives transform. And so it's kind of the piece that we have to keep moving on. Just to close that, I think what's so important about all the things that might be seen as what plague the city could be solved if there was more funding, say, less money going into ideas around, more shelter and more going into how we're housing, which the housing bond and the 10-year housing plan. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening.
So glad that passed.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reality is that it's hard to see things like humane animal shelters in the city's budget, but not human locations. And there's no way around that.
Pretty well said. I think the city is making efforts.
I do too.
We saw the bond, and hopefully they can continue that. Any other questions? Here we go.
Ooh.
So Matt's got a question for Ross. What are you most excited about at Flagstaff Shelter Service over the next several years? You're rocking on the growth front, but I'm curious what the dream is looking ahead. Before you answer that, I don't keep saying I've been here for so long, but I have, and I've worked on a lot of boards and, done nonprofit work. It's easy when you see somebody who has so much passion. I mean, you can't fake what you give to this. You are an extremely passionate, you believe in this, it comes from your soul, it's meaningful, it's not lip service. And it's worth pointing out that, those places that we give our money that have the greatest longevity are led by people who are passionate and inspire and model for others what it is to be of service to others in this moment like this with this organization. So thank you. All right.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think it's really, I would be really bummed if I didn't take a moment to recognize the sheer number of people that are behind this work. That I get to be here with you and sitting, and eating the tacos that you provided for us. But I can tell you right now, there's somebody behind the screen right now, Kelly Svirko, Holly Krieger, our program director, Chuck Erebus, our operations people. I mean, we have this remarkable team of people who really care about the work. And I think that the truth is that, we don't always get it right. In fact, we get it wrong a good bit. But I think what is so remarkable about this team is that it's made up of people who want to have a due north of the right side of the work. And so people that want to be doing the most good with what we've got. And so when we have to turn around and defend something, it's not as painful as it could be, because we're saying, well, you know what, maybe that didn't work out, but we did it because it was the right thing to do. Even when it was the hard thing to do, it was the right thing to do. So I just need to make sure I mention the staff, these coordinators that are there at 2 a.m. Doing CPR on people that need that. I mean, I can't tell you how often we have to have that kind of conversation because the medical vulnerability of folks in our on our team or in our building. And so our staff, the board of directors, it's just a remarkable group of people that I'm deeply loyal to.
You can't fake it. You're not. So Ross, what are you most excited about?
Whatever, Matt.
Matt wants to know, what are you most excited about over the next several years? You're rocking growth on the front, but I'm curious what the dream looking ahead is like.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the new hotel. I think it's a model that really works. I think for the first time in a long time, I'm seeing true connection points that could really move the needle with these hotels and these spaces that are private for people, especially in a community where there's just housing is just a nightmare to keep people in shelters long term because we can't solve the housing.
You were talking about that
solution.
earlier.
Yeah.
Before this, we were talking, and I said, whatever you just said, we need to talk about that, because you talked about part of it wasn't the mission, but it was about that we don't have return.
We need to. I think a successful response is maybe not is solving everybody's homelessness, but a successful response is about being able to reduce the time people spend in homelessness, right? Because we know the trauma associated with staying at the shelter. I mean, there's no way around it. It's not an easy place to be, especially when you take everybody. When you take people with mental illness and that are intoxicated and that have all those things, you end up with a lot of people who have a lot of needs in one space. And so getting people out of that environment, having it available, show up, but getting them out as quickly as possible and having it be something that they don't return to is, I think that's where the solution can live.
Sure.
So let me answer Matt's question. It's the hotels, it's the work we're doing. We're undergoing an equity audit right now, which I'm really excited about. We're working with
an equity audit.
Yeah. So we're really looking at every corner of our policies and procedures and practices to make sure that the people that need to use our service feel safe using our services, and that they can, that they feel like they're receiving help from people that look like them. And so, there's a lot to that. And it's almost 2023. And to pretend like we don't have work to do there is naive. And so we have to be in pursuit and curious about where those opportunities are. And so I'm really excited about that.
But what that tells me is somebody who donates is that's part of the loan. As you grow, you're incorporating policies. There's policy changes to ensure a long history of success.
Yeah.
It's not, what worked 2 years ago is not going to work today.
No.
And you're taking the steps to provide you the information to create those changes for long into the future.
Yep.
That's
right.
cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
It's forward thinking.
Well, it's necessary, and it's exciting to be a part of a team that also cares about those things. So.
There was a guy I worked with. I didn't work with him. He was my life coach. His name was Charlie Horton, and he'd tell me things like, "John, do your words and actions increase the integrity of the universe?"
Ooh.
And I'd be like, "What?" Like I can't even wrap my arms around that. But if I dumb it down for John Conley, do my words and actions increase the integrity of this moment with the people I'm surrounded with the community I love? I can connect with that. And I think that I can't think of a better organization that increases the integrity of our community in the moment, in the most meaningful way than Flagstaff Shelter Services. It's truly meaningful. It's not lip service. I mean, it creates true change in people's lives and safety.
Yep.
So any other questions? Oh, we got another one.
Oh,
Christy
dirty
Shaefer.
dog, Christy Schaefer.
People want to throw an extra item. Oh, shit. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just joking. If people want to show an extra item in their shopping cart this holiday season, what do you need the most of at Flagstaff Shelter Services?
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. TP.
I mean, honestly, it's hard to imagine something that we use more of. And I mean, if you are running your own home, then chances are purchasing toilet paper. It's not, that need doesn't go away. And so it is something, and Christy's great about this, actually. Full disclosure, Christy is my sister. So thanks for the question. And, I think it's something she's so great about it. Every time she goes to the store, even when she Instacarts, she makes those purchases. And so every time I see her, she's just like handing me,
toilet paper,
a pack of tissues or some cleaning products, kind of thing. So
toilet paper, and then
garbage bags,
toilet paper, garbage bags, and then checks in the mail from donors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Toilet paper, garbage bags, checks in the mail.
Yeah.
From donors.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Come on. We got some more time here.
Do you want to ask about the tacos, people? Because I really think we need to be talking
more
about.
Epic.
They were delicious.
We talked about your budget. We talked about the city. We talked about what you're going to do with the money. People might be thinking, now that you've got all this money, do you need the help? Yes, we talked about that. Yeah, we don't want this to be a deterrent.
No. And there's actually a ton of research about organizations that get this kind of like one-time windfall. And so like the truth is that if we were to have a loss of a grant or two because people thought, oh, they don't need it now, and then a portion of our donors, that could be something that would set us back substantially. Sure. And in the long term,
people think you're flush.
Yeah.
And you're not flush.
Yeah.
I mean, like the need is ongoing. So
yeah, sounds like there's another question.
Toilet paper, garbage bag.
Mm-hmm. And it's the big garbage bags, those big black ones.
55 gallon. And then checks. We got another question. All right, Heather, Havoc, or let's see. What can kids do to help?
Oh, that's such a good question, Heather. I really appreciate you asking that. Havoc used to, maybe still does go to Haven where my kids go.
Yeah. And mine
and yours. Yeah. So kids absolutely can get involved. One of the things I love recommending is when your child is having a birthday, encourage them to think through the people that are coming and say, maybe not in lieu of gifts, but would you bring toilet paper with you when you come for the shelter? And that's a really easy way to do a little fundraiser with a little donation drive with your friends, and helps them connect too.
We could do that for a Christmas party.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to do that.
Okay.
So in conjunction with your other events, ask people to bring toilet paper or other needed supplies.
Yeah. I mean, it's so simple. And honestly, I mean, the number of kids that are then going on vacations and taking the toilet paper that is in the hotel. I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
You know what I find out too with regards to this question is, let your kids give it. Like bring them, have them pick it up, box it up, bring it in.
And we'll take them on a tour. You know, I mean, it's not, you know, we can't, obviously, because we serve everybody, that also means we serve people that can't be around children, and that's okay. But what we can do is give them a tour. I mean, my kids have been to the shelter, have seen it. It is definitely something that kind of bends their mind a little bit to walk into a room and see all the bunk beds, and really try to think about what it's like. And so then when they go out to dinner with their family and they go to put their coat on and get in the car and think there are people that are outside tonight, feeling this cold on their skin. I think it's you know, it's a way to connect your kids and to create a better world for the rest, for your community when your kids understand it.
And you just said it before, in this time, in these moments, creating a sense of compassion is so important.
And connection. I mean, being connected to your community.
Being mindful, being kind, being of service. You know, it gets us out of our funk too. People are like, you know, we don't really give more than a whole lot of people, although some people seem to think. But I was asked today, well, what, you know, why is that so important? And it's really quite selfish. It makes you feel good about yourself. I mean, really, that's just it. You know, there's not much more to it. I want to do things that make me feel good about our community and me, and that's one of the things. And if you're in a funk, you know, get out of your funk. One of the things we've done here is, you know, you see. We've got 130 employees here, and you can tell when somebody's having a bad day. Yeah. And it's like, come with me, and we'll take a break, and we'll walk over to the food center, and we'll be like, look, you know, you want to find a little gratitude, you know, these people, you know, poor me, but really these people don't have any food to eat. Yeah. So here's a little shot of reality, and we've done that where we just walked over and served food, and so it's time to give. It's Christmas, but it's always Christmas for you. You always need help financially and physically. Any other questions?
I definitely physically need help for sure.
Yeah, and mentally, like
emotionally, behaviorally.
I've known you. The Ativan's not working anymore.
Stop it.
Okay, so can we donate clothes year round, or are coats the most useful?
You know, you can donate clothes year round. Absolutely, Cicely. It's definitely an organization. We have space. We love your donations. Coats are certainly the most helpful this time of year, right? Like, don't donate your wedding dress kind of thing. Sell it and then give us the money. No, I'm just kidding. But it really is a time of year that warm clothing is the best. Socks is super helpful. If feet situations are so significant for our population, the amount of walking and frostbite and that kind of thing. So just like thinking about how would you wear boots without socks in them?
What about razors and stuff like that? Like toiletries?
Yep, all that stuff. Disposable razors. I know it's Flagstaff. We don't want to use disposable razors, but in this case, it really is necessary. Soap, shampoo, detergent, all that kind of stuff. What you need for your house, we need for ours. So, yeah.
What was the first one again? It's toilet paper, big garbage bags, checks in the mail, and then socks. Toiletries and socks.
Socks, yeah, all that.
Okay.
Yeah, all that information is on our website too. All the information on how you can get involved is on our website too. So definitely www.flagshelter. Do you say www anymore?
No, that's so 1980s.
If the world like
it's 1980s.
You know what? No. Jeff Bezos thinks I matter.
You
so,
Rick Springfield.
But I would say definitely visit the website, flagshelter.org. You obviously on Facebook, you can see it there, how to get in touch with us. We have the longest night service coming, which is our annual time to honor people experiencing homelessness that have passed away in the last year.
What is that called?
It's called the longest night service.
The longest night service.
And so we do that every year on December 21st, which is the longest night of the year. It'll be at 6:00 down on Heritage Square, and it's an opportunity for us to light a candle, have community. It's a non-denominational service that is really just about honoring people. So people can come out for the public.
December 21st, the longest night, Heritage Square. What time does it start?
6:00.
6:00.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Have we covered everything?
I think we might have done it. Yes.
This has been fun. And
yeah.
thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.
Yeah.
It's important what you do. I love your messaging. I love what you stand for. I love your whole crew, your whole team. Keep doing good work.
Thanks, John. We love you
because,
guys. So thank you so much for
It's great.
doing this with us.
You can go to www.flagstaffshelterservices.com.
It's .org.
Oh yeah.
It's .org. Flagshelter.org.
.org. Is it really?
Yeah, it's
That's
an
an
organization.
organization.
We don't sell things, but we do have a T-shirt shop. You can get a cool T-shirt. Support the org.
www.flagstaffshelterservices.org.
Let's wrap this up here,
What is it?
people.
What is it? You're saying no, that's not it.
No, you're making fun now.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like
I'm
it doesn't
pretty-
feel like you're spreading the
I'm
integrity
good
of
at
yourself
that.
into your
Are
community.
you do your words and actions increase the integrity of the universe?
Okay. Do you feel like that right now?
Maybe.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Good night.